And hit your got it. 3, 2, 1, and we're in. Can I hear a big SDEB? What?
Hey.
Oh, Jeremy. That's right.
Hey.
Or hey.
Oh, I told
Hola.
you. There we go. Thank you for that. Welcome to the SDEBA Power Lunch networking event. No matter what time it is, it's the Power Lunch because that's the website. I'm your host, Milo Shapiro, the author of Public Speaking, Get A's, Not Z's, and I welcome you to being here today. This is, for those of you who are new, so I know we have some visitors, the Chamber of Commerce for San Diego's LGBT plus community and its allies. I see a lot of allies here today, so thank you for being here with us. We are in the September version of this. We do this every month, once a month. And right now we are going to find ourselves down here on the 20th. It is Punch Day. So I don't know if anybody is sitting there with their cup of punch. I'm going to pretend that's punch right now because I could use a cocktail. It's been a long day, but now we're going to relax and have some fun with each other and with our guests. Please mute yourself at this point if you haven't now, because we do want to make sure that we're not going to catch any background noise until it's your turn, and we'll talk about that. A couple of things you want to have on is chat, because people might write to you, especially after you share, and say, hey, tell me more about that. If you've got chat off, you will never know. It could be under the more button if you don't have to see chat there along the bottom. This will end up on YouTube as part of the channel that we run through the organization, and that will get put on our Facebook page. So just know going in, your face will be seen here and there. Now you have been forewarned. It's not a big deal anyway. Today's sponsor is the city of San Diego. Yes, that lovely city that everyone should come and spend their vacation dollars at. That may not be the ocean, but we do have one. We're in the farther left corner of the country, for those of you who don't know, and we do have an ocean. We're as far as possible from most places in the country, and yet you can reach us by plane. Another little known secret about our city is we have a zoo. Not many people know that. Also not the ocean there that he is in, but we do, as I mentioned, have an ocean. So come on out, come from wherever you are and bring your money and then go home, because we don't have room for you to stay, but we do want you to come and enjoy yourself while you're here. This is all my way of saying that we don't actually have an actual sponsor for this month, but we'd love to have you or someone you know be the sponsor for the next one. So for October, if you'd like to be the sponsor, you can let us know, info@sdeba.org. Anyway, helping us out today, we have Jeremy Wilson, who is running the controls, our CEO. And is Brenda with us, Jeremy? I didn't see her come in. You know?
I'm here.
Oh,
yeah.
Good. Thank you for speaking up. I didn't see you log in. Like I said, I can only see 6 people at a time on the side. So that is not Jeremy down there at the bottom, but he will be there. He is in the top corner. And there is our whole board, the top and bottom row. We have 8 people on the board. If that is up to date, I think it is, because I updated it recently. We thank them for all the work they put into keeping the organization running, in particular Jeremy, because this is a big thing for him to be doing on a full-time basis now. What does SDEBA stand for? It stands for this: the San Diego Equality Business
Recording in
LGBTQ. Someone just unpause who shouldn't. If you're not muted, you are making a lot of noise right now. Thank you. Nope, they're still doing it. And now there's an echo. Let's hope that doesn't last. The San Diego Equality Business Association promotes LGBTQ influence through business ownership, workforce equality, and active consumerism, creating prosperity to support equality, diversity, and inclusion. So if that sounds good to you, you are in the right place, no matter where you're coming from. We welcome you here today. Part of the features is one of the main features of being a member is that you get listed on our directory. For example, if I were to type in on our directory photographers, it would bring up our photographers. And if I clicked on that one on the left there, it would tell me all about him and how to find out information, even a little video with him. This is the kind of thing you get to be listed. I know when I'm looking for businesses in the area, I go to the SDEBA.org website to find out who supports our community so I can support them. And that could happen for you as well. We also have the app where we share information with each other and about upcoming events. You can get that as a member, and you get to be a part of all the events we have, both the Zoom ones like this and the live ones like the mixers that we've had a couple of this year. That last one, the food was so good. The downtown hotel, that was fun. So what is today about? Well, it's a chance to give you a chance to share what you offer to a larger segment of the SDEBA community who are here today. Everyone's going to get 30 seconds to talk about their business if they'd like to share, so that we get to know a little bit more about who's here. It gives you a chance to learn about what others are offering in the community so you can support them. It gives us a chance to provide education in various areas to our members, usually through our interviews, but also through announcements that we make. And it helps grow the SDEBA family, because the more people who come to this, the more people who might join the organization. What this isn't is exclusive by industry. So it's possible that we could have 2 loan officers or 2 realtors, and that is okay for this, because this is not an exclusive thing like some other groups are. It's not a chance to find out intimately about each other's businesses, because we are going to stop you after 30 seconds. So we hope you'll find interest in each other and get together outside to learn more to support each other. It's not a replacement for the business networking groups. Those are the ones that are meeting on a regular basis and are exclusive by industry. So we get to know each other and be able to represent each other. If you've got 10 people in your BNG, it's like there's 10 of you out there at all times listening for opportunities, because we send each other those kind of tips. An important part of being in the organization. It's one of the best values of being in it, and it's included with your membership now. It's not a commitment. If you can't make it to a power lunch because you've got a big business commitment, go to your big business commitment. We just ask that when you don't, come be with us, because we want you here. And finally, it's not a place to sell to us. Don't think about selling to the room. Think of selling through the room. If you excite us about what you do, then we're more likely to talk you up to other people. And that opens up a lot more avenues than just selling to the people who are on this call. The meeting format looks like this. I hope I got this right. Yes, I did. We're opening at the well, it's not the top of the hour. At 4:30 we opened. We'll have our member introductions in just a few minutes. We'll have our interview with Mayor Gloria, and we'll have upcoming events and announcements. And finally, we'll have our official closing, not at 1 o'clock, but at 5:30. And sometimes we have extended Q&A, but not today, because we're going to let Mayor Gloria get on with running the city. All right, how will you know when it's your turn to speak? Okay, that's the important part of turning on that participants window. It's going to be alphabetical. And as you watch, you'll see I'll be calling on the next person. And as it gets closer and closer to your name in the alphabet, you can be ready. The names do bounce around a little bit. When I'm talking to someone and they unmute, they jump to the top of the list. So be aware that the person right before you may leave that spot, and then it's your turn after that. When you hear your name, that's the time to unmute. If you anticipate an unmute, I will accidentally skip you, because you will jump way up to the top of the list. So unmute when you hear me say your name. Then you can share about your business orally, or if you're good at using the screen share and you can fit it into your 30 seconds, you can share your screen during that time. Afterwards, please do remute and unshare if you shared your screen. And once that next person is talking, that's your chance to use that shared area to give us your big 5, your name, your website, your phone number, your email, and maybe your LinkedIn, so we can find out a little bit more about you. Okay, keeping us on time today, we have, I hope I have the right thing. Yes, it says Barbara. Oh, well, but it's the right picture. It's Brenda. As we rotate back and forth, I don't always catch little things like that. But we do have Brenda, who has been wonderful most of the time in the last year to be here and give us our timing cues. So Barbara, Brenda, they are the cues that I told you. Would you like to explain them to us?
Absolutely. Welcome, everybody. So I've got a couple timing cues. So as you do your introductions, you're going to want to make sure that you can see me in one of our squares here. Okay. So at 20 seconds, I'm going to hold up this yellow card here. This is your 20-second warning. And then at 25 seconds, I'm going to hold up the stop sign. You should be wrapping up your introduction. And then at 30 seconds, I'm going to use my hook. And that's me saying thank you. And that's letting you know that your 30 seconds is over. And then once you've done your introduction, you're absolutely welcome to put your contact information in the chat for everybody.
Perfect. So thank you is her very polite way of saying stop, really stop. And we've had times in another group where she's had to say thank you a number of times. So let's not make her do that. Great. And away we go. We're going to start almost at the top of the list of attendees. We're going to start with Jeremy, our president, because I know that he has an event he wants to talk about before we get into the intro. So I'm going to give him a minute or two for that.
Thanks, Milo, and welcome everyone to a special time and a special guest power lunch again. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with us, and thank you, Mayor Gloria, so much for joining us here this afternoon. As Milo mentioned, we do have one of our signature events. These are events you don't want to miss. Our last signature event was our Pride Mixer at Gossip Grill. We had over 220 attendees and well attended, and probably one of our busiest events in over 4 years. So when we have a signature event, please come, do your best to make an appearance. You won't regret it. Our next huge event is our 2022 Equality Business Awards live at Martini's San Diego. So tickets are on sale now, but in addition, more importantly, our nomination portal is open. So please take a moment to nominate businesses, individuals, companies that have made a difference in 2022. You'll find the nomination link at the very top of our webpage at www.sdeba.org. The nomination portal is open now through October 15th. We do have 5 additional awards this year for a total of 12 awards. We'll announce these awards and give out the awards live at our event on Sunday, December 4th from 5 to 7 p.m. As I said, tickets are on sale now, but there's a variety of options, including VIP packages, sponsorships, and single tickets and tables, all available. Please do nominate your fellow members and outstanding community leaders. And I hope to see you at our 2022 Equality Business Awards coming in December. Thanks, Milo.
Thank you. I'm going to stop sharing now in case anyone who we call on wants to share the screen, and then I can see the participants list a little bit better anyway. And I'm going to start near the top of my list. Again, the people who are on board as part of the background team, they do show up above the alphabeticals. So that's going to give us Brenda Geary. So Brenda, if you could kind of show us what it looks like you'll be doing when you're timing people.
Okay, I'll multitask here. My name is Brenda Geary. My passion is helping people to optimize their wellness from the inside out. A topic I wanted to share with you guys today is about collagen. Collagen is the glue that holds our body together. And it's super important because as we age, by the time we get to 25 and 30, that collagen goes down significantly. So who I'm looking for right today is that person that you know. Uh-oh, it's not letting me share my screen. No worries. I'm looking for that person that you know that wants to optimize their skin, hair, nails. That's the person I'd love to speak with. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have an arrow on my side, not on your side. Thank you.
Okay, good. I wanted to make sure that the share option was still working for people. Good, glad to know that. There are a few people who are unmuted and we're not calling on them yet, so that's throwing you out of the alphabetic. So if you could please all mute yourself until it's your turn, that would appreciate that. Like Susan, you're way at the top of the list for some reason, and Darren. There we go. And now we are going to get alphabetical.
Hey, Darren, can you mute yourself as well?
Okay, I thought I was, sorry.
That'll do it. Now I've got my A at the top of my list, and we're going to start, and I've seen her do it, so I know she's good. Adriana, would you get going on the alphabetical list for us?
Sure. Thank you so much, Milo. I'm Adriana Brunner. I'm a proud member of the SDEBA and the board. I work for my Point Credit Union. We were formerly Point Loma Credit Union, and we had a rebranding. We now are orange and look super cool. And we have a branch in North Park, probably closer to a lot of you, on next to Mr. Moto. We are a community credit union. A lot of people ask me why we are different, and we are different because we can have honest and simple conversations. Thank you. Yay, I did on time.
Well done, right on the time. And Adriana knows I use my Point journal every day, so I count on their support. They're great with the community. Next up, we have Claudia Rempel. Would you please unmute yourself and share about yourself?
Yes, this is my first event with everyone. My name is Claudia Rempel. We became new corporate members during Pride. I work for American Medical Response. I manage part of our operation in our community and government affairs, and we're committed to saving lives through education by offering countywide health and wellness initiatives, including CPR, AED, Narcan administration, and bleeding control. I'm also the current board member of Mana de San Diego, where we empower Latinas at all stages of their life. Thank you.
Thanks. So glad you were able to join us today.
Thank
Nice
you.
to always see new faces here. Next up, okay, it's time to unmute again. Darren, you are ready and up, I hope.
Hi, so I'm Darren. I'm owner of West Coast Uniforms and Accessories. We sell uniforms mostly to public safety, so police, fire, EMS, security. We also have some like hotel customers like Caesars. We sell everything from uniforms to everything that they use. So handcuffs, pepper spray, flashlights, boots, hats, gloves, things like that.
Sounds like I'd be ready for Halloween if I drop by your place. Oh, so many options there.
Yeah, it might be a bit professional for some Halloween costumes, unless you want to really look like
Maybe.
yeah.
I heard fireman. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Heading on up next, we have Debbie Miracle. Oh, you're still muted, Debbie. There you go.
Okay, hi, my name is Debbie Miracle, and I want all of you to participate in playing pickleball, but I'm more concerned that we need a place to play. So we are trying to repurpose the tennis courts that are hardly ever used at Robb Field in Ocean Beach. And all of this would be done with absolutely zero city funding. And we're hoping that we can get a meeting with the mayor, particularly with our founders, Stefan Boyland and Nick Szynski, to discuss how this proposal can benefit the whole community. And
Thank
not
you so
just
much,
the
Debbie.
PDC.
Thanks, David. I don't know where you're going to find Todd to be able to listen to a comment like that, but if he was here, maybe he'd know.
Yeah. Okay,
What better place to catch an ear than here?
I know.
And, okay, we're gonna have a big jump in the alphabet. So Javier, you are up next.
Afternoon, everyone. Javier Gomez. I'm the Director of Global Affairs for Mayor Gloria, and happy to be here.
Thank you. Next person we have up is Karen Kaufman.
Hi, I'm Karen Kaufman, the president of the San Diego Women's Chorus. Our concert Evolution will be at 4 p.m. on Sunday, November 20th, and it will celebrate our 35th anniversary. We welcome donations of silent auction and raffle prizes, and we'll probably be offering ads in our concert program.
Thank you. Best of luck with the concert. Next person I see up is Ken Campos.
Hello there, my name is Ken Campos, aka Dr. Ken. I'm a local psychiatrist, retired from hospital work, currently the medical director of a relatively new nonprofit called the Schizophrenia Care Project Foundation, or SP Care for short. Our focus is education and support of families who have a young adult child with schizophrenia to strengthen the family bonds to prevent homelessness and other sequelae of schizophrenia. And I'll put some contact information in the chat. Thank you.
You look much happier talking about work since you left the hospital, by the way. Next up, we have Libby Tate.
Hi, everyone. Libby Tate here. I'm with Windward Life Care, and we are the home health company that does aging life care management as well as home care services. And we also have a team of home health that we have nursing on our staff as well. And we definitely are so excited to be part of the, obviously the SDEBA, and we are located in the directory this year. So just love to hear from you all. Thank you.
Thanks.
So glad to have you with us. Going past the M for Mayor Gloria, I think we can get a lot of time with him later, so we'll save 30 seconds there. But we're going to go down to Nikki. Nikki, it says Nikki Trans Talents.
Hi everyone, my name is Nikki. I'm from Thailand. So currently I'm working in, I'm doing the fellowship program with the San Diego Pride. This is sponsored by the State Department, but back home I work in a public relation company. And also I work as a D&I, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion consultancy service for the company. I help company to strategize and set their strategy on D&I and to advocate a transgender leadership program as well. Nice to meet you all.
And well said. Thank you. Over to Paula Reeder from IBNG.
Hi, everybody. I'm Paula Reeder with National Processing Company. We are a merchant service provider dedicated to small and medium businesses. As Milo said, I am a member of the Tuesday morning BNG group with Milo and several other professionals. And we offer a complimentary rate analysis for anybody that has to use merchant services. And I would love to hear from you. Paula Reeder, National Processing Company. Thank you.
If you ever see a vendor yelling at their processing machine, give them Paula's name. That's one of her favorite tips.
Exactly.
All right, next up, I'm not sure what the name is. It says PRRKI. So I'm going to let you speak for yourself.
I never changed my name. It's Gina Diamore. I'm from Loves Accounting, and I'd like to give a shout out to Brenda Geary. I met her when I started my company in 2016, and she's been promoting health ever since, and she is amazing. Thank you, Brenda.
Oh, thanks. Yes, I've seen Brenda change a lot of people's lives with her products. That is terrific. Richard Sager, you are up next if you'd unmute and share with us. I see you in a box, Richard. Are you there? There you go.
I am here, but and I'm a former president of the organization, but I am largely retired. So I'm just here.
Well, we're glad
Thank
you
you. Right.
Okay. Stefan Boylan, you are up next then. Stefan or Stefan, perhaps?
Yes. Hi, Milo. How are you?
There you are.
Thank you. The local pickleball community proposes to repurpose the hundreds of vastly underutilized tennis courts, just a handful of those, to pickleball courts, satisfying thousands of more local residents, and all at our expense. No city funding. We would love to have a meeting with the mayor, myself, and Mike Shinzaki sometime over the next month to discuss how our proposal benefits the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you. Just leave Mission Hills alone, please. I play tennis there. The other ones, fair game as far as I'm concerned.
You have my word for now.
Thank you. I've already talked to Debbie about that one. Next up, we have Susan Bruin.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add other than this. The city, I think, really does need to address that serious issue with the demand for pickleball courts in San Diego that's been underrepresented, for years. And it seems like no city action has been taken for far too long. Thank you.
Thanks. It's good to have representation on an issue. And we will wrap things up with Tamara, who I guess is not going to be talking about pickleball.
Hey, welcome, Todd. I appreciate you being here. No politics here. Just glad to have you. My name is Tamara Zahaley. Most people call me Tamara Z. I'm with Compass. I'm an experienced realtor, and I help my clients make smart real estate investment decisions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That wraps up our list. Did I skip anyone as that angel bouncing around? I think I got everyone. Speak up quickly now if I skipped you. Doesn't seem like I did. Okay, so I'm just gonna get to the right place in my PowerPoint. There we go. And I'm gonna take my turn and just let you know that my name is Milo and I am a public speaking coach. And I have a belief that there is a misconception that if you know English and you know your topic, you are ready to go out and speak. And that's not actually the case. There's like 15 to 20 other things you ought to know first. And people don't know those things and they panic and think I'm not a good speaker, or I'm afraid to speak. And what we do is we stop and say, no. It's not that people are talented. They just intuit those 15 to 20 things. And most of us need to learn them. So I take you through the process one by one together so that things make more sense and you start being more confident, more capable, and feeling prepared, polished, and powerful whenever you speak, whether it's that big speech or maybe you have a sales pitch you give on a regular basis. We help you get there through publicdynamics.com. And that's me. All right, so now we are going to cut over. Let me just make sure I got the right thing on my PowerPoint. Yes, so I'm not even going to bring it up because it's only going to be one slide and we'd be back anyway. So I thought I had an introduction for Todd from a year or two ago when he was my guest. And it turns out you were my very first guest. We didn't do introductions back then. So I had to come up with something last night. So instead of an outright introduction, because I never do anything conventionally, Todd, I came up with a list of 10 facts about Todd, 8 of which are true. And I'm going to see if our audience can guess which 2 were not true on this list. And in the process, I'll be introducing him. So, number 1, Todd is a 3rd-generation resident of San Diego growing up in the Claremont area. Number 2, while a student at USD, Todd was active in the effort to add sexual orientation to the campus non-discrimination policy. 3, Todd is a former chairman of the San Diego LGBT Community Center. 4, Todd served as San Diego Housing Commissioner from 2005 to 2008. Number 5, Todd was elected as District 3 City Council person in both 2008 and 2012. Number 6, Todd placed 2nd on season 4 of RuPaul's Drag Race, right behind Sharon Needles. 7, Todd served as the interim mayor of San Diego for over 6 months when Mayor Filner resigned, making him San Diego's first openly gay mayor. 8, Todd was elected in 2016 to the California State Assembly. 9, in 2020, Todd was directly elected by the people of San Diego to serve as the mayor of America's finest city. And 10, finally, Todd's middle name is Enfuego. So 2 of those were not true. I'm going to leave it to you to figure out which ones. Todd, if you'd unmute yourself, welcome to being with us today, and we're really appreciative.
Thank you for that introduction, Milo. And I'm still bitter at Sharon for stealing my crown.
I almost came up with what your drug name would have been, but I better not push my luck. All right. So So some of these questions are hard hitting, some are light. It's going to be kind of a mix, a lot going on. When we last had you on, other than letting people get to know you, there was a lot more getting to know you questions back then. Almost all the questions were related to COVID. And so much nowadays is looking like 2019 again. So before we move on to more recent issues, I just want to know, what are some of the ramifications still that the city might be feeling from COVID, and maybe some good outcomes from the 3 years of things that we learned?
That's an awesome question, actually, because I tend to agree with what the president said earlier this week about COVID being over. I think that was a simplistic description in the sense that we all need to get boosted, right? There's a new series of boosters. Everyone's eligible for it. That will hold the line. But where are we today where we were in the spring of 2020? No. Not at all. And as long as we're vigilant and continue to follow public health advice, we're going to be fine. But there are continuing impacts. The echo effect of what happened in 2020, 21, and portions of 22 are real. I'll give you a quick example. Not 30 minutes ago, I was sitting with our fire chief discussing a host of issues. And one of those is that we are starting to see a critical lack of paramedics in our city. Now, don't get alarmed, but when you didn't have academies for a couple of years, that means you don't have the throughput. People continued to retire, but folks weren't actually in the academies getting, probationary training. You get my drift. Yeah. So, while we are operating as we were basically like in 2019 from an emergency response network, it is true that our staffing is still a problem, and we're likely to have to feel this for a couple of years. I think another way is a lot of our pools are currently closed. One, because of staffing issues. Pool guards are not extremely highly compensated. It's hard to find, and we prioritize beach lifeguards because we can control access to the pools, but not necessarily to the beaches. We also have a critical supply chain issue when it comes to some of the chemicals that we use to make our pools usable. So the echo effects of this continue to be real. We're not quite where we want to be in terms of revenue. Had things not have happened the way they did through the pandemic, we probably would have more cash on hand than what we currently have today. But I will say our situation is infinitely better than it would have been without President Biden and the American Rescue Plan. That is absolutely what's paying the bills around here. And I've been real frugal with that money, so we're going to continue to use it the last 2 years, this year and next year, and hopefully bridge that gap while revenues come back. But point is, we're still very much in the throes of it, and you still feel it today. Probably a litter can that needs to be picked up somewhere in a business district, to response times in terms of getting your calls picked up at City Hall and a host of other things. In terms of good stuff, some good stuff that happened is that you may remember that during the pandemic, we converted the convention center into a homeless shelter, 1 million square foot homeless shelter. What that was interesting, I've been in this business for a long time, worked in homeless services for a long time. It was probably the first time I can think of when all of the providers, all of the clinicians, et cetera, were literally under the same roof at once. And that forged some relationships, some connections, some symbiotics, synergy, whatever business management terms we want to use, that are still paying dividends to this day, right? So some good stuff. I wouldn't say that any of it's worth what we went through in terms of the pandemic, but there are some positive things that have come from it. But there are still absolutely impacts that we're dealing with today.
How about all the restaurant out on the sidewalk stuff? Is that going to continue, or is that still kind of lingering? It is going to last.
It's adopted city policy. We've gone from an emergency response posture, which was like, hey, put out your chairs and just don't mess anything up, to some specific city council adopted rules with fees attached to it. Now, hear me out. Some of the folks have been grumpy about them fees, but here's the thing. That's your property and my property, right? And if a private business is now going to benefit from it, with some corresponding impacts, right? There tends to be a little bit more litter. There tends to be maybe some other issues in terms of public health. And so we need the ability to be able to manage that. The fire marshal has to go out and permit these things. So there are city resources that have to be expended to make this permanent, and we're doing that. Some folks have said, no, thank you, I don't want to do that, and they haven't persisted. Other folks have said, I'll do whatever it takes to keep it. So the answer is, Milo, we will continue to do this to the extent that businesses want to apply for those permits. And there is still some, this is the first time we're doing this from a permanent perspective. Again, during the pandemic, it was kind of a free for all, do what you got to do to keep your business open. Now we're sort of getting into a rhythm of stuff. There's growing pains where that's concerned, but my prediction is you'll continue to see outdoor dining and other sorts of streeteries or whatever they want to call them continuing to persist in our city. Our climate's too perfect and people have really embraced this concept, and we're happy to keep it permanent.
Great. Yeah, I know at least one restaurant where I can't imagine what fee would have to be before she wouldn't say yes. You've doubled her seating. So
Exactly.
it's a huge boon to her to be able to do that. So yeah, that's great. All right. Well, when you were here last, almost every question that people wanted me to ask you was COVID related. And now that's not the topic, but almost I mean, I had to really say, give me some other topics, people. Almost every question was the homeless.
Yeah.
So it's hard to even know where to begin. This feeling that downtown is being surrendered to them, and are we keeping up? Are the things being done keeping up with the rate of growth of homelessness? I wish I was more well versed to ask the pointed questions, but I want to give you a chance to speak on where we stand, what's been done, what's being done, what maybe can't be done.
The first question and the second one are related in a lot of ways. The pandemic was traumatic on everybody. A lot of us, I think if you were honest with yourself, every one of us is dealing with some sort of mental impact from it. Low grade anxiety, a little bit of depression. Think about someone who's already grappling with those issues. People for whom they had no safety net. Think about what it is to have an explosion in mental and substance use disorder, particularly the challenges of opioids, specifically fentanyl, and to a lesser extent, methamphetamine and heroin. Think about skyrocketing rents. An average one-bedroom apartment in our city now goes for $2,400 to $2,600 a month. Many of us on this Zoom are privileged enough to be able to be on this Zoom, and we struggle with getting suitable housing. First and last month, credit check, et cetera. Think about what it is to navigate those prices and those barriers with a significant mental illness, with a serious substance abuse challenge, or any number of other issues. So the increases that you're observing are real. Those are happening. They're 100% happening. Now, I have a sign on my desk over here, right here in front of me. It says the buck stopped here. I'm the mayor. The buck does stop with me. But it's difficult to have responsibility for someone's falling into substance use, for someone getting divorced, for someone developing schizophrenia. You can imagine what it feels like to be held accountable for that, recognizing that the city of San Diego actually doesn't have jurisdiction over mental health issues or substance use issues, that we do have permitting authority over more housing, and we are the most pro-housing city on the West Coast, maybe to the chagrin of some folks on this Zoom. I get a lot of negative feedback about our efforts to try and build more housing in the community, but these are connected issues. You'd be surprised how many San Diegans yell at me about homelessness and in the same conversations complain about new housing in their community. I see that as inconsistent. I see that as talking out of both sides of your mouth. And that's the level of inconsistency that I would be held accountable for, but for whom many folks freely share those opinions without any kind of consciousness of recognizing that they're being inconsistent. So what are we doing? I think that's really what you want to get down to. Listen, I get that there's all these problems. I get there's fentanyl. I get that there's bad luck. I get it. Mayor, what are you doing? In my first year in office, we increased shelter capacity in our city by 25%. In the last eight days, I've added roughly 210 additional shelter beds to our city's capacity, the last 8 days. We have taken our safe parking lots from only operating between 7 p.m. and 6 a.m. to now 24/7 at one of those particular lots. You can imagine what that is for someone who's homeless, who doesn't have enough money, who's dealing with $5 and $6 a gallon gas, to have to move their car twice a day. You realize why that was prohibitive for people to accept that services. We've removed that barrier. When I became mayor, we sent direction to our providers. We partner with nonprofit partners to run our shelters and our homeless affordable housing complexes, telling them they have to accept pets, that they have to keep partners together, that they should try and provide more privacy. What I'm attempting to do is remove every excuse that there is from folks to get help and services and come into our shelter system and eventually into our housing system. Simultaneously, I use my relationships up in Sacramento to do something that was literally impossible when I was in the legislature just a year and a half ago, which is pass serious behavioral health reform. What you may know is that many of the most disturbing people that you see in your neighborhood every day, that man who's screaming at the top of his lungs on a street corner, that person who's standing in rags who's filthy, and is there day after day. What you may not know is that if they're not a threat to themselves or others, that is a very high bar from a legal perspective. We can't do a thing about it. And that's really frustrating because we're consigning people to die on our sidewalks. What we did with Governor Newsom in passing Care Court is to create a new legal pathway to compel those individuals to get services and to demand the government actually serve those people. It's not surprising that you might understand that a lot of providers aren't interested in serving people who are, say, severely schizophrenic with a significant substance use disorder. Those are the toughest of tough cases. It's far easier to deal with someone who's lost a job and get them back on track, right? Someone who's dealing with low-grade depression. We're saying, no, we have to prioritize the toughest of tough cases because they're the ones that consume the majority of our resources, therefore making it impossible for us to serve all the people that we need. So I have taken our outreach efforts and made them citywide. You have outreach workers in every council district every day of the week. We have more shelter capacity than we've ever had. And by the way, by removing those barriers around pets and privacy and partners, we regularly exceed 90% occupancy. So a lot of folks will say our shelters are terrible. They could always be better, don't get me wrong. But the fact is people are voting with their feet. They're coming into the shelters because they want to be there. And I will tell you, in a year, we've gotten 500 of them graduated out into permanent housing. But Milo, you're like, that all sounds great, but the problem's not getting better, it's getting worse. And I say it's true. Again, for all the inputs I described in terms of unattainable rents, greater substance uses, and free and easier and cheaper drugs to get a hold of, I would say that a lot of, you asked the question about COVID, we didn't have the ability to incarcerate a lot of people during the pandemic because that's a close quarters and the spreading of COVID was real. We only 2-3 months ago got our ability to hold people on bail in San Diego County. So if we were arresting someone, because while homelessness is not a crime, being homeless is not a crime, homeless people do commit crime. And if they are not able to be incarcerated and held accountable, either because we can't put people in jail or we can't hold them in jail because we don't have bail, those things are slowly coming off and we're able to kind of bring that system back into play. Bottom line, Milo, I want to make sure we have plenty of time for questions. There are no simple solutions to this problem. Everyone's path to homelessness is unique. And the challenge with public policy is the policies that I get to be a part of as mayor are intended to apply to all 1.4 million San Diegans. So that one size fits all becomes extremely difficult when each individual's path to homelessness is different and unique and therefore hard to fit into that box. What we're trying to do is provide an array of services to offer to individuals and to get them to be able to come off the streets through our outreach workers, into shelters that have been expanded, and then ultimately graduate into housing. And I said a moment ago, this is a complex problem. There are no simple solutions. That is a true statement. But if I was forced to say, what is the simple solution? The answer is more housing. A lot of these folks do have incomes. They have VA benefits, they have Social Security disability, they have their own resources. They simply can't afford to live here. And what we have to do is make it so that it is possible for these individuals who are the most challenged in our environment, but also probably a lot of folks on the screen in front of me to be able to afford to live here. Milo, you made the joke about the tourists, and I love it because we love tourists coming. They pay their taxes, they get out of Dodge, right? And that's a good thing. But it's also a free country, and people can choose to come here or leave as they want. And I recognize that for a group that is LGBTQ affiliated, you recognize why people come to our city, because it's a place that's safe and welcoming and accepting. And we can't tell people we're just going to close the door on them because it's the traffic's too much, that housing's a little too tall. We have to actually accommodate these people. What we will become is a city of the very wealthy who got here and the very poor who are forced to live here, rather than the vibrant multi-class economy that really keeps a city thriving. So we can talk about this all day, and I'm happy to discuss it further. But ultimately, the solution to to homelessness is more outreach, more shelter, more housing, and behavioral health reform. I will tell you, we're working every single day on it, but I'm the first to recognize that it's still not enough. We need the county to provide more mental health and substance use assistance. We need the state to continue to work on conservatorship reform so that person standing on the street corner screaming at the top of their lungs is not there for long periods of time with no help. We need the federal government to pass President Biden's Build Back Better proposal, which includes $150 billion in Section 8 vouchers that will help more people get off the streets permanently. Everyone has to do their part. I'm just the guy that happens to be the mayor. I happen to be in town with you. I'm not 3,000 miles away in the nation capital, 500 miles up in Sacramento. I'm here every day. You know me by my first name, and you understandably hold me accountable, and that's okay. But I absolutely need everyone helping me with this, and that starts with saying yes to more housing in every community. If every neighborhood participates, no one neighborhood will be radically changed, and we will be able to address both our homelessness crisis and the affordability issue that means your kid's teacher probably lives nowhere near the school, while you can't can't find a nurse to see you when you go to your doctor's, and why there's not enough checkers at the grocery store because they can't afford to live here. They move somewhere else. That is bad for the future of our city.
You raised the point a while back that I want to get to, but you went into affordable housing. So let's stay there for a moment. What's possible for the teacher, for the grocery worker? What's going to make it not so that they're driving in from Campo to work at the Ralphs in Hillcrest? What is possible at all with that?
A lot. This is a solvable problem. Listen, we are the human species. We have been sheltering ourselves for millennia. We know how to do this. What we have done in recent decades is to make it extremely difficult to build more housing. And some of those restrictions are understandable. You know, there are historic resources that we want to preserve. There are questions about infrastructure and traffic that I think are completely legitimate and deserve answers. But ultimately, when our population goes from when I was a boy to being, you know, a couple 100,000 to where we are today of 1.4 million, the 8th largest city in the country, and we've only built a couple 10,000 new homes, not the couple 100,000 homes that were needed to accommodate that additional growth. It doesn't take a genius or an economist to understand that constraint of supply means the price goes up. So we have to build more. Now, how do you do that? I'm not a believer that you should build anything anywhere. Building a bunch of skyscraper condos along the beaches, that's the most expensive kind of housing that doesn't address the affordability issue. And to your point about building out in Campo, I'll tell you that a lot of state laws are going to prevent us from being able to do that because that's more driving, that's more carbon emissions, that's actually adding to climate crisis. That's not good. What I will tell you is that a lot of what San Diego is doing is class leading, nation leading. I had folks come in to see me the other day. They are stopping investing in another city about 100 miles up the road that we don't like, and investing only in San Diego because the reforms that we're putting in place make a lot of sense. I will tell you, we had an announcement, I think it's earlier today, about a new housing project in Barrio Logan, which requires zero taxpayer subsidy, no money out of your pocket or mine, but will generate studio, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments that would rent somewhere around $1,400 to $1,500 a month. This is for brand new housing. Brand spanking new stuff that we would all be proud to live in. What did we do? Well, we allowed them to build a little more, go a little higher, waive some of the requirements that normally exist. And what we're getting back is a substantial amount of housing that doesn't require a nickel of taxpayer dollars. So the answer, Milo, is that we can do this. It doesn't require skyscrapers in every single neighborhood, but it does mean that some gentle density, maybe a couple granny flats here, a few duplexes there, a few row homes over here, and a couple taller apartment buildings elsewhere, and yes, even some single family homes where we can still fit them in. But for folks who are still thinking of San Diego as the San Diego that I was born into in the 1970s, we're pretty built out. We've covered a lot of ground. And again, building far on the backcountry is not really sustainable. It's probably building closer in our communities, and that means changes on University Avenue, Oakland Boulevard, Balboa, Sports Arena Boulevard, and we can do that. Again, if everyone does their part. My request isn't of any one neighborhood to bear the entire burden for the entire city. That's not going to solve it. But if everyone does a little bit, I believe that we can create naturally affordable housing. This is the last point I'll make, Milo. You got your inbox was inundated with questions about homeless. In our county, we have 8,000 homeless people. By the way, that's the 5th largest in the United States. Number 1 is New York. Number 2 is LA. Number 3 is Seattle. Number 4 is San Jose. Number 5 is us. Remember those cities because not all of them have great weather. So next time someone tells you it's all about our weather, remind them that New York, San Francisco, and Seattle have pretty not so great weather, right? But they have larger populations than we do. We talk about the 8,000 homeless people in our county. There's about 5,000 of them are in the city of San Diego. And that's a significant and important issue. Where my head is at is about the hundreds of thousands, if not more than 1 million San Diegans that are a renting increase away from becoming homeless themselves, that is missing a paycheck that away from becoming homeless themselves. We don't talk enough about those folks who are in the working and middle class who are struggling to afford to live here. And it isn't to exclude the thousands of homeless people we have. It's just a recognition that public service should be about doing the most amount of good for the most number of people. And the most number of people need more working and middle class housing. That's housing that doesn't require a public subsidy because the job and the income that you earn should be sufficient to pay your own rent. You shouldn't need the government to subsidize your housing. We should make these folks build housing that's affordable for that grocery store clerk, that teacher, that nurse, or firefighter. Otherwise, they won't be here and the city won't simply function.
Where to go? So many places. Okay, so now you just took me back to my other point. When you say that you have the person who's screaming on the corner, who is the most expensive person to help, isn't there a counter argument to that we should help 7 other people who are bordering on homelessness or just ended up homeless instead of giving that person our money to deal with that? Because there's the ratio of helping those people could manage in a hostile setting without upsetting other people and being thrown at. How do we decide which one of those to give the money to?
The answer is both, Milo. I mean, we can't, I mean, they're all San Diegans. We have to serve them all. I know that may seem Pollyannish, but let me say, we have to have a wide array of options for those who just need a little bit of security deposit money to get back into a unit and move on with their lives, a little job training or, some identification. You can believe how many people can't, lose their ID and they can't get a job and benefits, whatever else, right? So there's some low barrier stuff. There's the highly acute, and we have to serve them all. I don't get to pick and choose exactly. A part of that focus, though, on those most acute cases is that, again, when you're considering it from my perspective, they use my ambulances, my fire engines, my cops, the environmental services that have to hose down the sidewalks because they, use them for bathrooms. I mean, there is a lot of money going to those folks. And if we can stabilize them, get them off the streets and into housing, it frees up all those resources, all those dollars. So to your point, that one person no longer is consuming all those resources. And because they're suitably housed, we can take those dollars and then serve the 7, 8, 9, 10 people who are not able to get to. There is a return on investment by focusing on those severely mentally ill people who consume a lot of resources, but we are not saying that we only service them. What I'm saying from a behavioral health perspective is that we can't simply choose to help just the easiest of cases. We have to lean in on those most difficult cases. They're the ones that cycle in and out of jails, in and out of our emergency rooms, in and out of these very expensive settings. And it is just simply, it is a fiction for us to say what we currently say, which is that they're not a threat to themselves or others. Yeah, they're screaming on the street corner. They might wake you up in the middle of the night, but they're not going to jump in front of a car. They're not going to attack anybody. Well, neither of those necessarily are facts and evidence,
right.
Number one. But additionally, I just simply think, how do they know to drink water? Who is giving them food? How do we know that they would get out of the way of a car that might actually hit them? I mean, we have this happen with some frequency in our city. It is lying to ourselves that if we think that is true. And this is a part of how we were able to convince my former colleagues in the legislature to do what was nearly impossible a year and a half ago and actually pass this thing that we believe will help, could get as many as 12,000 people a year into care and therefore hopefully off of our streets.
Wow. You start to really be able to see, listen to this, how homeless to housing and housing to homeless back and the circle goes, and the circle because it takes me back to a previous point. It's very easy for everyone to go, oh, I don't want the house next door to me to be 7 stories tall because we want to see the sky. And that's unfortunate when we can't. But more than unfortunate is, can the city support the infrastructure of having these 7-story buildings, the additional parking, the additional, I mean, we were getting notices from SDG&E about brownouts this week. When you start adding more buildings and more electricity and it's in the inner city and the roads, do we have the infrastructure to support putting more people into the city itself?
We do. I know that probably a few of you would disagree strongly or are very skeptical of that answer, but we do, Milo. First off, there are plenty of cities that are far denser and that are larger in terms of population, and they're just fine, right? And the question is, do we choose to engage in this conversation in a thoughtful way that actually anticipates these questions and actually deals with them, rather than the sort of ad hoc, not really thoughtful thing? So let me give you a couple quick answers. One, what you may not know is the primary funder of that very infrastructure are the developers that build in these neighborhoods. We charge them a park fee, a library fee, a fire station fee. That's how we pay for this stuff, right? So when we say no to additional development, that's turning off the majority of the cash that we get to actually pay for this stuff. And that's particularly relevant for some of our older urban communities that have outdated fire stations and libraries and whatnot, and that we need to upgrade them. But if we say no, we may not have the dollars to do it. The other thing that I've been a big proponent of, while I was on RuPaul's Drag Race, you may not know that I'm also cheap as hell. And here's my deal: is that it is true that our city has financed through developer fees, but for half a century, we've said that whatever fees are accumulated can only be spent in the neighborhoods where those projects are. Now that makes some sense, right? To your point, if there's a new building next to me, I want to make sure that the fees that developer is paying stay in that neighborhood. But the illogical part of that is it assumes that we spend all of our lives in one neighborhood. And that is not true. You probably live in one neighborhood, work in a different one. You probably recreate in another. You go see your girlfriend over in that other neighborhood. You take your kids to the one over here. We are San Diegans, and we should care about every corner of the city. That separate pots, which are literally over 50 of them, some of them had tens of millions in it. Some of them had a couple of bucks in them. And the point is, in those neighborhoods that have a couple of bucks, they're not seeing any progress whatsoever. And those other ones that are really enriched, they have no projects to fund. They're just the money sitting there. With the city council's support this year, we removed those silos between all those 50 funds, and we now have a citywide pot. What I'm telling you, Milo, is that we're going to start churning out projects at a clip that you've never seen before, because we've taken the handcuffs off of us in terms of where those dollars are able to be used, under the notion that you should care if Mayor Mesa has a good library or not, because that may be where you go, right? You should care whether or not the pool in North Park is open or not. And by the way, if that project only needs a little bit more money, let's go ahead and move it over and get it done rather than just have it on the unfunded list for all time, right? That's what we're dealing with. I predict we'll be able to address this, and that will be able to address some of the concerns people have about the lack of infrastructure. But again, at the end of the day, if the concern is infrastructure, we will never get it if we're not actually building more stuff. And what we have to do is charge the developers exactly what they should pay, right? No discounts, no 1980s prices in 2022 San Diego, right? We have to charge them the full amount. We got to collect it, and then we got to put it to use. No more sitting on it here at City Hall. Put it in the neighborhoods, hire people, give them jobs, build that stuff, make our neighborhoods look better. That way people will be less fearful when we come in and ask to build more housing in those particular neighborhoods.
Okay, so part of that infrastructure, maybe getting some cars off the roads with bicycles.
Yes.
Yeah, I figured you like that idea. So I have to say to you that if I want to see someone in San Diego get upset, I can say to them, what do you think of the bike lanes? This has been so tumultuous, and everybody knows when you tear up roads, it's a nuisance for a while. But beyond that, the skinny lanes on University Avenue, and people saying, why couldn't it have been over on 28th? Why can't it be on North Park? Why does it have to be the major throughways? I'd love for you to just be able to address what's been done and what's coming in the bike lanes.
I would be delighted. You know, in part, listen, number one is this is about safety. We've had a tremendous amount of fatalities in this city because of our infrastructure and the lack of safe ways to get about the city. And that should concern everyone here, even if you're not a cyclist, because we all as taxpayers pay for that. The survivors of those individuals who are either hurt or killed often will sue the city, and it comes at tremendous cost to all of us. That's money not going to serve our homeless. That's not repairing our roads, not fixing up our libraries or parks. You know, my responsibility, first thing, is to keep you all safe, to have a fully funded police department, fire department, lifeguard service, making sure you're taken care of. This is a part of safety. Milo, I think a part of why people are frustrated, beyond it being new, and can I just say explicitly, just because you've never seen it before doesn't make it bad, right? Change inherently is not bad. I don't necessarily like change myself. I'm kind of a set in my ways kind of guy, so I get it. But change, and just because you haven't seen it, these are not bad things inherently. I think one of the reasons this is troublesome to people is we are building a network that they've never seen before. So sometimes you'll get a situation like, say, on 4th and 5th Avenue in Hillcrest and Uptown, right? They go from the 5 freeway up to basically University, and then they don't connect anything beyond that. That is not the end state. We will be building more. And I think sometimes people see that and they look at it like, well, that's stupid. It's just a couple of blocks. Well, what are you doing? It'd be the equivalent to building an 8-lane highway in the middle of the desert, not connected to anything with any interchanges or any exits, right? We're building a connected network. And whether you look around downtown where we have dedicated bikeways on Beach and on B Street and J, and this goes on, and now we're going up Pershing, and 30th Street has been done, and the Georgia Street. I mean, like, you see a connected network that is slowly getting built. So it's about safety, it's about connectivity, it's about choice. I don't know about you, but I have multiple suits and ties and shirts and stuff because I like to choose different things in the morning. And right now you only have one choice really getting from A to B in this town. That's by your car. I think you should be liberated to be able to walk safely, take transit safely, bike without taking your life in your hands. And yes, drive your car. I'm not trying to take away your car. You should be able to drive your car. You should have the freedom to choose. And then I think the last thing, listen, you talked about those rolling brownouts before, Milo. The climate is changing. And if we don't do stuff, it's going to change to the point that we won't want to live here in San Diego. That what really makes us incredible as in terms of our weather and natural environment, it'll be gone. One of the ways we do that is reduce emissions and carbon emissions specifically. 40% of our emissions come from our cars. And because we're forced to only be able to go from A to B in a car, this is unsustainable. We have to build other options. And so this is what this is about. It's about safety. It's about giving you choices. It's about addressing climate change. And it is change, and that can be difficult. Sometimes it comes with parking losses, but my commitment is to do our very best to find offsets wherever possible. We're going to finish the bike lanes down University Avenue and down Normal Street in the next couple of years, like I would say, like within the next year or two. That will reduce some parking as you know it currently, but I will promise you when we're done, we're going to net quite a bit more parking in that area, because we're going to go to angle, we're going to go to side streets, we're going to make it so that you have some more ability. But the point is, you're going to have some choices, and all of them will be safe, and all of them will make sure that you can get to your destination without dying in the process. And I don't think that's too much to ask for.
Okay, thanks for addressing it. I'm going to throw away all my slides so we can take Todd right to the very end here, just to say there are upcoming events within SDEBA. And of course, we're going to have a power lunch next month. I'm going to put one thing over there in the chat in just a moment, which is a little poll. We want to find out, this got a little better time turnout because of the later time slot, but also we had Mayor Todd on, so it's not an exact comparison. So I just want to ask you all if you just answer a 2-question survey on what you're looking for and what you'd be more likely to attend. So I'm going to post that before we go. Back to you, Todd, and I'll leave the other stuff later. Midway Rising, that's got to be an exciting project. So I want to give you a chance to address something positive.
Well, it is. I'm very excited about that. Anyone of you been to the sports arena recently? You know, it's. I'll tell you quickly. I don't have a lot of time, but I took my parents to a Fleetwood Mac concert there a couple of years ago. And for those of you that were there, I've seen a couple nodding heads. You may remember Stevie Nicks comes out. She sings their first song, and then she, it's more about storytelling these days than it is about singing a song. And she was talking about, Fleetwood Mac's first world tour was 1968, and we got on a bus in Berkeley, California, and we drove to San Diego for the first show here at the sports arena. And I'm here 50 years later, and it looks exactly the same, and I was mortified because she's right. But really, Milo, this is about a new arena, and the proposal that we've selected would include that, but it's also about a lot of housing. Specifically 4,250 additional homes. The majority will be affordable to low and middle income San Diegans, 2,250 of them. Why is that important? Because we own the land, and I ain't selling it. I told you before, I'm cheap, right? So we're going to hold on to that land because we're the owners, and there's no sale price in the land because we're keeping it. We're going to make sure the rents there for the majority of the folks that live there will be affordable. And that'll be a good thing. And we'll get a new arena out of it. We're gonna have to negotiate a bit more on it, but I think ultimately what we'll get is something that you can be really proud of. And I think it will spark a new life for the Midway community. Probably a lot of us go there to go to Target, maybe go by some of the other stores in the area, and you see that it needs some TLC. This is gonna be the generator, the catalyst for some TLC in that neighborhood, that community. But for those that live in that community, they are wildly excited about this opportunity for self-determination and improvement for their community. And Milo, I will tell you, is going to be similar to what we're going to be able to do downtown. I'm coming to you live from our city hall. This is 6 city blocks of land of 1960s era building that are full of asbestos and do not work well for the city in the 21st century. We're going to follow a similar process where we can get a new city hall that we can be proud of and that can house all of our employees, where we're not leasing a bunch of private property elsewhere, making other people rich, but we're also going to use it to leverage to build a whole lot of homes down here in downtown San Diego that again will be affordable to local San Diegans. So I'm really excited about this. Some folks have criticized, they don't think we can do multiple big projects at once. I beg to differ. We are a big city, and you better expect that your mayor can deliver big projects. And the reasons behind all of this isn't building a big city hall or a big sports arena to some edifice complex, if you will. This is about building more homes that are making it possible that more San Diegans can afford to live here, and we get more homeless people off of our streets.
Right. I'm going to ask people to click on that link. Don't go read it now. Don't go filling out forms while we're talking to Todd, but I want you to click on it before that disappears on you there, because we do want to know what you're thinking on the power lunches and where we should go from here. Todd, I'm just going to let you know, someone really wanted me to ask about the condition of Balboa Park, that there's been stuff dying and maintenance isn't happening. So I wanted to at least get that in there, even if there isn't time to address it. But sure. Here's my last question. It's unrelated. She said, I appreciate so many of the things the city is trying to accomplish. As an accountant, I'm in the position of meeting people in the first quarter and encouraging donations. There are so many causes, but which ones would the money go to that the city wishes, oh, if only there were more money going to that would really help us out? She said, how can I help people help the city?
Well, if those are two of the same question, if that's Balboa Park and philanthropy, I sharing no, so
It
I'll get
wasn't
back
meant to be, but if it works, great.
So, well, on the philanthropy piece, I mean, first off, there are some legal rules about when I start telling people to donate to stuff. So let me just be vague. I would point out that Forever Balboa Park is the city's identified charitable nonprofit partner for the park, and we partner with them to do big projects in the park, like the botanical building rehabilitation that's underway now. I think beyond that, we work a lot with a number of, as I mentioned before, our homeless ecosystem is powered by nonprofits that we contract with. So the city works closely with Father Joe's, with Alpha Project, and with PATH, which is People Assisting the Homeless. We're developing new relationships with a group called CityNet. They're providing our outreach along our freeways to try and reduce the encampments that are along the freeway rights of way. And we actually are working with groups like Serving Seniors. You know, seniors are the fastest growing component of our homeless population, and they're pretty key partners to addressing those folks. So hopefully those are some good names that are relevant to the work that we do at the city that may or may not address the accountant question. To Balboa Park, let me just say, in terms of dying, I heard the word dying, so that was conceivably referring to the vegetation, the plants that are there.
Right.
Newsflash, there's a drought and it's real and it's significant and it hurts the park. And so that's a part of that. So that's one thing that's a little bit, that's more of a God than a Todd thing, right? We need some rain around here and we need it like stat. So whatever you pray to, please get us some rain. But to the built environment, I will push back on the suggestion because here's the deal. You go to the park right now, you see the botanical building is getting the first rehab that it's received ever. I went up and hustled money when I was in the legislature and working with Tony Atkins. We've got millions flowing to that building. That building is going to be 1915 perfect here in not that much longer. Mingay has been recently did a $70 million redo, and its first floor is now free and open to the public. We've reclaimed the Plaza de Panama and the Palisades. We've done resurfaced the Automotive Museum. We've brought in the Comic-Con Museum. We've replumbed Balboa Park. So the Prado has recently been resurfaced and it's nice and smooth and it's gorgeous, but even better, the 100-year-old pipes underneath it, they're out and new pipes are in. We'll be building new bathrooms in Balboa Park because the current ones are a disaster. They're gross and they need to be replaced. And we have the money to do that thanks to Chris Ward. And we're gonna repave Park Boulevard starting probably next month, assuming that we get the materials from wherever the heck they get asphalt from. So here's the point. We're plowing a lot of money into the park. And back to that philanthropy question, a lot of that is through the institutions. Mingay raised that money. Timken just raised a bunch of money for their redo. Museum of Art and the Old Globe are about to embark upon significant capital improvements. We just have the brand new children's zoo open in the San Diego Zoo. So there is hundreds of millions of dollars plowing into the park. I'm really excited about it. The drought may make that harder to see. Our homelessness crisis probably makes that a little harder to see. But what you can see in the park, we are investing in Balboa Park, and it's no accident, you guys. I represented Balboa Park when I was in city council. I know the needs in that park. You honored me with the opportunity to sit in this chair as mayor, and I'm going to use that opportunity to make sure that we invest in our crown jewel and make sure that it shines for the next 100 years.
Thanks. And I appreciate you running a little bit over, Todd. I do want to let you know that many people told me they plan to watch the playback. So your time was not just 16 to 18 people, but I think a lot of people are going to be sharing this. We're even here to tell people this is something worth hearing, kind of a state of the city address you got a chance to do here. So thank you very much for being with us, everyone. We will be having what should be a great guest in October. Watch your email for learning about her instead of me talking about it now. Thank you all, and fill out that little survey. We'll see you in October and at other events. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Milo. Good job.
And I don't see Jeremy. You can turn off the record.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.